Hey, welcome back to the show. I've got a really cool guitar preamp to show you today that's based on the Marshall 8100 that Chuck Schuldiner made so iconic on those later Death albums. I guess in the last few years since I've really got into Death, and I just can't stop playing all the riffs. I think Chuck Schuldiner was an absolute genius and a metal legend. I've been looking around for a second-hand 8100 to buy, and there's nothing out here in Australia that's really less than $1,000. The price is just so high with them. And I didn't think about any of the alternatives that are on the market, but the Martyr from Master Effects really is the preamp that captures that nuance of the 8100. And I've got it going straight into the Marshall DSL into the return jack of the effects loop, which is bypassing the whole preamp stage of the DSL. And this makes it really emulate the actual preamp for the DSL. You still get to use the reverb, resonance and presence controls of the DSL, but you're just really substituting that preamp in the front with the one that's been bought from Master Effects. And I've been playing Chuck Schuldiner riffs all week and I just can't get enough of it. It just sounds so authentic with that old 8100. I had a friend that had one back in the day, and the contour and the controls and everything just seems to react exactly the way that I remember it. It's nasty, it's 90s, it's got that whole crunchy thing going on, and but I do want to say before we get into it, you can actually damage your amp by having a preamp pedal go into the effects loop of it. If you have the gains and everything just far too loud and the volume input's just far too loud for what the amp can handle, you can actually damage it. So when you connect it in this way, you don't put anything into the input of the guitar amp. You're really just going from the output of the pedal straight into the return, treating the return as the input to the guitar amp. And then what I do is I turn the volume all the way down to nothing. Then I turn the pedal on and just bring up the volume to the right level. And you won't damage your amp if you just do it like that. And the reason I like to run a preamp pedal straight into the effects loop on an amp like this is I find that the preamp and everything that's involved on the input of these amps, it tends to squish this signal far too much and you just lose all what the pedal has to offer. Anyways, I'll just run through the functionality of the pedal just really quickly. Everything's so straightforward with it, with the treble, middle, bass, volume, everything that you expect to find on a standard guitar amp. But what made the 8100 so unique really was this contour dial. And you pretty much just, for Chuck Schuldiner, you just ran it all the way over. It's got a really unique sweep that it does to the tone, and it sort of scoops things out and causes things to be really crunchy, and dialed all the way clockwise just puts you straight into that Chuck Schuldiner ballpark. And it's exactly how you'd expect it to be. So using this pedal all week and just dialing in different tones for the Death albums, I found that it didn't really have to change that much. The difference in most of the albums really just was probably the microphone and cabinet placement and the different rooms that they were using for each. I would say that his amp settings and everything pretty much stayed the same throughout. And all I find I'm doing is just turning that treble just up or down, just a fraction, just to really dial in each of the tones off the albums. If you turn that treble right up and you just turn the contour up all the way, you can even get that scream bloody gore sort of tone. That it even captures that really cool and just sounds so unique. And I could tell as soon as I plugged this preamp in that this was just that tone. It was just iconic. It's like plugging into a boogie for the first time and you just know Metallic is in there somewhere. This is just like that. It really just captures all the nuances and dynamics of that tone. But if you have that treble just a little bit darker than usual, you get that whole like spiritual healing and individual thought pattern sort of tone. But if you turn that up just a little bit, you just get more of that grit that's like on Symbolic. For capturing the recording today, I'm not actually using the speaker of the Marshall here. I'm going through the 2 notes Torpedo Captor X, and it's emulating an SM57 in front of this 1936 V cab loaded with Celestion vintage speakers. And honestly, it amazes me that a little guitar pedal like this can be used as a preamp and convert the DSL into an 8100. So there you have it, guys, the Master Effects Martyr pedal, just running as a preamp through the guitar amp. No other pedals are connected to it. Nothing else has gone on for this whole recording today. It's just that pedal in the effects loop, nothing else. So anyway, take care, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye.